On this episode of Town Square Talk, we have Trish Thacker, CEO of Guild. This show is supported by South Robert Street Business Association and by West St. Paul and Mendota Heights Rotary Club. Welcome to Town Square Talk. I'm your host, Caleb Worth. Today we have Trish Thacker, CEO of Guild, and she is licensed independent clinical social worker therapist. And Trish, thanks so much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, looking forward to learning a little bit more about you. Can you tell me about your early life and education?
Sure. It sounds a little bit like you're asking me to lay down on the couch and tell you about my mother, but...
You don't have to go that far.
Okay. So I have a master's in social work, and I'm a licensed independent clinical social worker. So, early life, how early to go, but really I think what might be most useful information would be there's a whole bunch of us who have had some hard experiences early in our lives, and they can shape us. And we reach a point where, for me anyway, I reached a point where I needed to choose how I was going to have that shaping occur. And so some of that led to work in social work, learning how to productively and helpfully support people who are working through hard things. One of my goals is always that people would feel seen, heard, and valued. And, over time, engaging with people doing work, working as a therapist, working in a variety of roles, it became really clear to me that we have to create systems that provide a perspective and a view so that people can be seen, heard, and valued. And so that's what the later part of my career has been about, is working to create systems and structures that help people, staff, clients, whoever it might be, our community partners. My goal is always that people would feel seen, they'd feel safe, they'd feel like they have a place to express their ideas and thoughts, so that they can then be used to create solutions versus creating solutions without input.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a wonderful approach.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about your career before Guild in terms of the roles you've held?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So I've worked in a variety of settings, private, nonprofit, for-profit, community-based. I've worked for the state of Minnesota. I worked at HCMC. I've worked for Hennepin County. Mm-hmm. I also worked as a therapist for the first part of my career. Just kind of it's not standard, but standard in the sense of, seeing people in an office about an hour, documentation, paperwork, and working a therapeutic process. And what that really led me to is the understanding that the problem solving that we do in a therapy session interpersonally, I believe, can be scaled to groups and organizations and broader and into the community. So when we take those principles of coming alongside someone, helping them, supporting them as they determine our course of action, and then being able to provide support and guidance, like we can use those same principles as we lead people and organizations. So it's been a broad base of experience, which I think helps. Provide. There's enough variety that when things come forward, I'm like, I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen in other places.
Right.
Some of my early career was I got my master's out on the East Coast, so right outside of Washington, D.C. And my first job out of graduate school was working for emergency services, and that's where we would go out and evaluate people to determine if they were a danger to themselves or others, or substantially unable to care for themselves due to their mental illness. Mm-hmm. So you see, in that experience, I saw so much and so much intensity that it was actually, for me and my temperament, a fantastic first job, because it's kind of hard. It's hard to rattle me, Mm-hmm. So this is pretty much who I am in most situations. I'm pretty calm. I'm
cool, calm, collected,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
kind of, yeah.
Those are good skills to have.
They're really, really helpful. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why did you choose a career path that's centered around vulnerable individuals?
Yeah. So kind of related to how I started the conversation around, there are many of us who have come from hard places or had hard early experiences. And many of us end up in the helping professions. Not all of us. We don't have to. Some people end up in a variety of different settings, but that's how it worked out for me. And I think the driver was having experienced a sense of not having somebody walking with me through some hard things, nobody pointing the way. My desire is that people going through hard things wouldn't have to feel that way. And so again, it comes around to how do we join with people? How do we support them? How do we point the way? And I'm a single person. I'm not a source, but I can be a bridge. And I can't fix, but I can support, and I can point the way, and I can hold a light post, for people so that they know that they're not alone. And the people that need that most are folks experiencing the greatest levels of vulnerability. So those are people in those populations that experience marginalization, whether it be through income, through health, through disability, through mental illness, homelessness, those kinds of things. Those tend to be the folks that I work with. Even as a therapist, my work tended to focus on people with post-traumatic stress disorder or high-intensity behavior that was challenging to change and had really negative impacts. So that just seems to be where I fit.
Absolutely. So you've definitely found alignment in that realm. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a beautiful way to say it.
Excellent. Well, what brought you into Guild?
Sure. So so it was the values, actually. I had a recruiter had a conversation with a recruiter and was looking through the Guild website, and the values are forefront, and one of the top 5 values is for perseverance, and then Guild has kind of a subtitle of showing up when others don't. And I've said for years and years that perseverance is my superpower. So as soon as I saw that, that caught my attention, and I did a little more research and dug in, and I saw that the programs that Guild offers aligned really uniquely with my experience. I've worked in homeless services for a really long time, and we do outreach for people experiencing homelessness or who are unstably housed. We work with a serious and persistent mental illness, which kind of falls directly into my therapy experience. We provide supported employment, which aligns with the experience I had at Hennepin County, and it just all seemed to continue to work in the direction of, I think this is my next opportunity.
Yeah, the stars aligned there, it sounds like.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
It really did.
Excellent. Well, for those who are hearing about Guild for the first time, can you explain Guild's mission?
Sure. Our mission is to empower people living with serious and persistent mental illness to build a life that they love in the community that they call home. Our goal is to provide services to people where they live so that they can to build those things that help them feel joy and fulfillment, all the things that any of us want. And again, with the idea of staying in the community they call home. A lot of times when people experience some intensity with serious and persistent mental illness, they start getting pulled out of their homes into to hospitals and treatment centers and things like that. And while that's really critical, hospitals save people's lives, both medically and psychologically, psychiatrically. But the truth is, day to day, people get well at home. And so we want to provide the support that they need for them to be well at home.
Absolutely. So kind of meeting them where they're at, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wonderful, wonderful focus of the mission there. Can you tell me why it's important to really address those elements that you mentioned in terms of housing and stability and environment rather than addressing those things separately?
Sure. Yeah, it's a fantastic question. So at Guild, we work with people experiencing serious and persistent mental illness. We provide supported employment. We provide homeless outreach and housing stabilization. Because even if you just say them out loud, I think it's kind of clear that they each influences the other. And it can be a virtuous cycle or it can be a really painful cycle. So people who are unstably housed or who are experiencing homelessness often experience an exacerbation in their symptoms if they have mental illness. Mental illness can contribute to the likelihood of being unstably housed or experiencing periods of homelessness. So we provide support around where they're housed, and we bring those supports to them where they are. And supported employment is actually one of the things that I think is really unique and kind of beautiful about how we do the work. It's easy to think that people who are experiencing serious and persistent mental illness can't work, don't want to work, people don't want to work with them. There's a lot of assumptions that people carry. And the truth is, when you think about if anybody has ever experienced a period of unemployment, it's hard. You want to work and aren't able to get work. And then think of the structure that employment provides. You have a place to go. There's certain expectations for behavior. So it provides all of this structure. It provides a sense of I'm contributing to my own well-being. I'm contributing in my community. I'm also creating some income to ease my life and make things work better. So all of those things feed each other, and they help people, again, build the life that they love in the place that they call home.
Yeah, and then tying those things together to help improve quality of life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly.
Excellent. Well, can you tell me a little bit about Guild's approach with delivering services and really how that is, I guess, how that's seen from kind of a client standpoint on the ground level?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, if I'm a client, what does that look like to me? That means I'm going to meet the staff that are working with me. That means I'm going to meet them there. Maybe they'll come to my home. Maybe I'll meet them at a coffee shop or a library. So I'm going to meet them in my home and community area. I'm going to develop a plan with that staff member that's supporting me, whether it's a case manager or a nurse or whatever the role might be. We are going to work together to identify what are my big goals, and then how am I going to chunk them up into manageable pieces to continue to move forward? We are big believers in motivational interviewing, which one of the tenets of motivational interviewing is that resistance means I haven't met that person where they are, versus labeling someone as resistance. It just means let's figure out what's really going on. What are your goals? And really then help people provide the direction that we need so that they're helping us move in the direction that they want. It's really easy, especially as things get busy, to come in and be like, I'm the expert. Here's what we're going to do. There can be some of that, especially in a crisis. People need guardrails, because that's the nature of a crisis, is chaos, right? So, but as a client, then I would meet with somebody who would join in that conversation. We're going to have conversations about where I want to go, what it's going to look like, what kind of support do I need. They're going to continue to meet me either in my home or in the community. If it's a residential setting, I'm going to be there, but it's going to be the same kind of thing. How are you? What do you need? The best thing that we can do, and again, that's the idea of empowerment and seen, heard, and valued, is you are a unique individual with a unique set of experiences, and your experience of whatever mental illness that has arisen in your life is going to be unique to you. So our solutions need to be unique to you as well. And that's what we hope everybody experiences when they join, when they receive services from Guild.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a collaborative process there, a customized plan then for the clients, right?
Yeah,
Wonderful.
exactly.
That's great. Excellent. Well, it is time for us to take a break. We will be right back.
Stay up to date with what's happening at Town Square Television by signing up for our monthly newsletter. Go to our website, click on Newsletter Subscription, then fill in your details and submit.
Thank you for watching Town Square Talk. Did you know that Town Square Television is a 501c3 nonprofit organization? Yup, it's true. We are. And we rely on donations from wonderful viewers like you. You can also become a member, and you can do that at townsquare.tv. We would greatly appreciate your support to continue local programming. Thank you. We are back now with Trish Thacker, CEO of Guild. Well, Trish, I'm curious, what kind of impact does Guild make in terms of, I guess, kind of a broad impact and sort of from a personal success story standpoint?
Well, broadly, in 2025, we served 1,786 people. In terms of kind of taking it from that umbrella and then maybe narrowing it down. We were just talking on the break about the fact that the average length of stay or the length of relationship with Guild that clients have is about 12 years. And so we are relationship based. And again, it's the idea of helping people stay in the place that they call home and bringing the intensity of services that they need to them so that they can do that. So, again, a couple of stats that might help. 74% of Guild clients were able to achieve and maintain housing. We had a 14% reduction in psychiatric readmissions in 2025. So, I mean, those are kind of some of the broader impacts. Some of the things that I think people see and experience are these really long-term relationship-based care. Again, we have the ability to provide different intensities of services. So let's say someone meets us or they come to Guild through a residential treatment experience. They might transition to our assertive community treatment team and then over a period of time transition to our targeted case management team, which is basically kind of stepping down the intensity of services as stability and community supports are developed. That can, again, make sense for the person to step down in the intensity of service. In terms of success stories, we actually have a number on our website, so anybody who wants to go to guildservices.org and click on them, they are our clients telling their story. So it's not like a little blurb, it's literally someone talking about what their experience has been, which I think is really more powerful and then is consistent with the idea of seen, heard, and valued. Like, let's let them tell their story. But yeah, I mean, we have folks who have, for example, lost children, and through that experience had a real decompensation in their ability to live life independently, essentially. And so, joining them through whether employment or residential treatment or what it's going to be, there are so many stories. And we have our Ladder of Hope event, which is every holiday season, so in November and December, and it features stories from our clients. And one of them this past year talked about how she had been in the hospital, and she said, I don't really remember how I got in touch with Guild or how Guild found me, but I'm glad they did, just because the intensity of what we experience when people are in the hospital. So there's a lot of stories, and she's one of the folks that has been with us for, I believe it's over 15 years, and that's because it's relationship based, and that's where I think healing happens. It happens in your home. It happens through relationships.
Absolutely. It sounds like those are two critical factors.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about the clients coming through the doors of Guild? What are kind of the range or array of clients that you're dealing with?
Sure. Well, we have some youth services. We have a youth assertive community treatment team and youth employment services. So we go down to technically we went down to 16. We our average, if you were an average client, so the greatest number in the bell curve, ranged from about 30 to about 65, age 30 to 65. We're about 60% Caucasian, 22% people, and then the remaining, actually 40% are people of color. I believe it's 22% of folks identify as Black or African American, and then combinations of ethnicities that people would claim. I mean, I think the point I would really want to make is that, so who are our clients? What do they look like? They look like us. You will never know. You could be meeting our client on the street because they are us. And that's one of the most important messages that I could get across is they're us.
Right, and they can be fighting silent battles that we don't know about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, do you think from the mental illness standpoint, do you believe that there are misconceptions out there in society, and what would you say are the top misconceptions about folks that are battling mental illness?
Sure. I think one of the misconceptions I hear most commonly is a belief that people experiencing serious and persistent mental illness are dangerous, and they're generally not. And that's so incredibly uncommon. The average person who's experiencing some kind of serious or persistent mental illness, again, is going to look just like you and me. They're going to show up at work or they're going to show up at the store. It's not, a stereotypical idea is that someone with a serious and persistent mental illness is disheveled, they're homeless, or unstably housed, and that I'll get a funky vibe and they can't be trusted and all that kind of stuff. And those things are really just incredibly inaccurate. It's going to be the person that you meet on the street who, asks for directions just like you would, shows up at the store and, I don't know, is fumbling around for a credit card. It's us.
Right.
So whenever we try to put somebody in a box, I think we're on dangerous ground. So if anybody has a misconception, my challenge would be to think beyond it and think of anybody who's ever struggled. And we all have. So in your moments of struggle, were you any different than the people around you? No, you felt different because you're struggling, but would anybody have been able to tell? No. I mean, and people that I work with will say sometimes, if I had cancer, people would know that this is legit. If I were in a wheelchair, people would know. If I had a cast on my leg, people would know my struggle, and they don't. And sometimes it feels invisible and harder. Like, I've heard people say they feel like they have to justify themselves and their existence in many ways. No, they're here. They're us.
Right.
We're all valuable.
Absolutely. We're all part of the same community, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yep. Well, Trish, all nonprofits certainly have been struggling in various ways since the pandemic with a variety of challenges. So can you tell me, since 2020, what sorts of challenges has Guild faced and how have you addressed those challenges?
Sure. Yeah. Well, during COVID, everyone talked about that this was unprecedented. And to the point where unprecedented, I'm not sure what it means anymore. But that being said, it was. And I think it's easy for people to forget that means that we need to have an unprecedented level of adaptation. And so we are still adjusting to, we're focused on financial sustainability. We're focused on making sure that we're being really great stewards of all of our resources, that staff, capital like buildings. We are, refocusing on what do people need. We're shifting to the idea that, so there's been things in the news about, demands to return to office. Well, I mean, we're community-based already, so people are already out and about. How do we do that work and provide the support that staff need to do really hard work and give them support and give them a landing space so that they have privacy to have the conversations they need to have, but there's flexibility for them to do their work. So, the adjustment from COVID, we are involved in that like most organizations are. I think what is taking most time and attention and energy right now is, the current environment around Medicaid and medical assistance and how that's affecting people and organizations. A lot of our services we bill for medical assistance for because the folks that we work with will often have medical assistance as their insurance carrier. So when there's cuts to Medicaid, that creates a different level of challenge. And it's harder for the folks we serve as well. Like there are some waivered services that have been discontinued. And so while on the one hand, that means that our services are going to continue to be needed because the intensity of the need doesn't decrease over time, it tends to increase. That also means that we're trying to fill gaps that were filled before by different services. So there's a lot of adapting and problem solving that's happening within Guild, but within the sector of people providing community mental health.
Yeah, it definitely sounds that way. Have to be adaptable and flexible and come up with new solutions, right?
Yes. And we might have to develop some unprecedented coalitions. Organizations might need to work together in ways that we haven't before, but that might just be what we need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thinking kind of ahead in terms of the future of Guild, where do you see the organization in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure. Well, so I'm being recorded.
You are.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, what I would love to see broadly for Guild is that people hear the name Guild and they think that's where I want to work. That's where I want to get services. If, I would want my mother, friend, brother, sister, spouse, family member to get services from them because they're the most person-centered, the most individually driven, provide the best care and have the best outcomes. And I would want our staff to feel like this is the place I want to work because of support, because of salary, because of resources. Like we want Guild to be the provider of choice for clients and for staff. We want this to be where people want to work and where they want to receive services.
Absolutely. That's a great goal to strive for. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if someone is interested in Guild services, how can they get in touch to get more information?
Sure. Well, there's the website, of course, guildservices.org. But in particular, our community access program. So our community access program, and we have a great navigator, Peter. Peter's awesome. All our staff are awesome. And Peter is who you would contact if you called Community Access to ask for services. And he's going to help you find, is there something within Guild? Like, are you appropriate for our services? Do you need a service out in the community? We're really committed to connecting people to what they need in their community. So if they're looking for a service we don't have, we're not going to say, oh, sorry. We're going to say, here, let's find you what you need in your community. So that would be a great place to start.
Sure, absolutely. Well, what does Guild need the most right now in terms of support? Is it financial? Is it volunteers? Is it something else?
Sure. Well, I think like all of us in our sector, we all need financial support. With some of the volatility in the economy, philanthropy is going down, generally speaking. Larger foundations and other opportunities, organizations that provide opportunities for grants and things like that are tightening their requirements. Some grants opportunities are invite only at this point. So those resources are constricting, and therefore the competitive nature is also then increasing, so there's more people that are submitting grants and applications for fewer opportunities. So philanthropy, grants, other organizations that support community mental health, yeah, we absolutely need that. Some of the things that we're advocating for are around the reimbursement rates for the services that we provide on the state and the federal level. We're advocating for there's a lot happening federally in terms of conversations around how much money the state of Minnesota is going to receive for medical assistance. So that's something that we are advocating for as well. If there's a cut in medical assistance, that makes services go to fewer people. It's either the services are going to go to fewer people, or the reimbursement amount is going to go down. About 75% of our budget is Medicaid reimbursement, and a number of other providers like us have really similar ratios. So, we advocate in those areas as well. We would want people to get services. We would want Medicaid to, what we would really like is for them to increase their reimbursement rates, but at least not decrease their reimbursement rates. So there are a lot of chess pieces moving right now. At the old Star Trek, they used to have like a 4-level chessboard. So we're in 4-level chess.
Oh, yeah. It sounds that way.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Trish, as we kind of wrap up here, can you just mention one more time the website for Guild if people want to get more information about the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at guildservices.org, GUILD services.org. No caps, no.
Perfect.
No hyphens.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Trish. Really appreciate you coming in and talking to us about Guild.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for watching this episode of Town Square Talk. I'm your host, Caleb Worth. We'll see you next time.